Is the Supreme Court's ruling on nationwide injunctions and Trump's birthright citizenship order a constitutional win or a dangerous overreach? This decision could reshape who's an American, while debates over Iran's nuclear program raise global stakes. We'll unpack both sides with history and facts to see what's really going on.
That it is enabling the fascist takeover while imagining that it's playing some very long game against it, end quote. Now think about what this decision means in real life. As Justice Sonia Sotomayor warned in her dissent, Trump's birthright citizenship order could, quote, wrench newborns from the arms of parents lawfully in the United States, end quote. And under this ruling, courts can only protect the specific families or groups and states who were plaintiffs in the lawsuit, or anyone else lucky enough, fast enough to file their own. Trump has shown over and over and over again that he can always make things worse, warping executive power to its ugliest extremes. And there's an added cruel twist, in case this hasn't been enough for you. Justice Amy Coney Barrett's opinion suggests that courts could still protect people by certifying nationwide class action lawsuits. But in the same breath, other conservative justices warn lower courts not to certify those class actions too easily. There's also the fact that the court itself in recent years had made it more difficult for plaintiffs to obtain class action status. So it's all a shell game.
Justice Sotomayor argues this ruling and the birthright citizenship order threaten the rule of law by limiting courts' ability to check the executive. She sees it as a dangerous shift, risking constitutional protections for newborns and parents. And supporters see it as restoring power to the people's choice. Now, here's what they're saying about that.
They definitely got this one right, and it's a huge win from President Trump. They got this right because all of these things, all of these injunctions have been really judicial overreach. And this Supreme Court, the conservative Supreme Court under John Roberts, is really restraining the courts and the lower courts and their authorities, because so many of these things were really just an extension of the lawfare we saw before President Trump took office. More of this, and I would again call it lawfare, with these groups trying to derail President Trump's agenda through the court. So huge win for President Trump in every single way. The court got this right, and I think it will have a big impact not only for President Trump, but for future presidents to be able to allow them to implement their agenda.
Not surprisingly, the Attorney General had some thoughts about this, pointing out the fact that most of these injunctions came from judges in blue states. Listen to Pam Bondi here.
To put this in perspective, there are 94 federal judicial districts. Of the 35 of the 40 nationwide injunctions filed against this president, against his executive authority as President of the United States, 35 of them came from Maryland, D.C., Massachusetts, California, Washington. I mean, that's crazy.
Jonathan Fahey says the ruling stops judges from blocking the president's agenda, like the birthright citizenship order, letting elected leaders act. It's a win for the Constitution's balance, reflecting voter mandates. In 1898, the Supreme Court's United States versus Wong Kim Ark case upheld birthright citizenship under the 14th Amendment, confirming that anyone born on U.S. soil is a citizen. This rule doesn't change that precedent, but the executive order challenges its application, raising questions about enforcement. Supporters see it as addressing illegal immigration, while critics fear it undermines a core right. This debate ties to national security, so let's explore Iran's nuclear program.
Robert Kelly, he served as the chief nuclear inspector in Iraq for the International Atomic Energy Agency, has also studied and worked on Iran's nuclear program for over 20 years. So, Robert, you know more about what we're seeing on these images than anyone. Trump tonight saying that no enriched uranium was moved by the Iranians before the U.S. strikes. Now, that's not something we've heard from anyone else in the administration, but he's saying they didn't move it. They didn't move it because it's too hard to do it and it's too heavy to do it. But you sent us an image today from what's going on in Iran that you say undercuts Trump's claims. Can you tell us exactly what we're looking at here?
Yes, what you're looking at there is a 5B container, which is used for collecting UF6, highly enriched UF6. You can't put very much material into one of those containers or you'll have a criticality accident. That's the whole basis of a nuclear bomb, is putting enough together, you get an explosion. So those containers will hold at a maximum of 25 kilograms. They're not very heavy. You'll notice that the container has two handles on it.
Robert Kelly, a former UN weapons inspector, argues the US strikes didn't obliterate Iran's nuclear program, as enriched uranium is easy to move and key infrastructure remains. This view sees Trump's claims as exaggerated, raising doubts about the mission's success. Supporters insist the strikes were a major blow. And here's what they're saying about that.
The devastating U.S. strikes on Fordo destroyed the site's critical infrastructure and rendered the enrichment facility. John Radcliffe, the director of the CIA, putting out a statement just last night.
Late today, CIA Director John Radcliffe had this to say, and I'm quoting from his statement: CIA can confirm that a body of credible intelligence indicates
Iran's nuclear program has been severely damaged by recent targeted strikes. This includes new intelligence from a historically reliable
and accurate source/method that several key Iranian nuclear facilities were destroyed
and would have to be rebuilt over the course of years.
Ordnance was dropped exactly where it was supposed to be dropped.
Pete Hegseth claims the strikes crippled Iran's nuclear program, setting it back years, supported by CIA and Israeli assessments. This view sees a win for national security. Let's fact-check the claim that the program was obliterated. A leaked DIA assessment reported by CNN suggests some enriched uranium and infrastructure survived, as Kelly noted. Satellite imagery shows intact buildings at Fordo, per the New York Times. However, Israeli and CIA reports confirm significant damage to centrifuges. The program is set back but not eliminated, balancing both claims. So in the end, the strikes were successful. The fight over executive power in the birthright citizenship ruling drives these stories, from constitutional debates to global security. Critics warn of threats to the rule of law, while supporters see voter mandates being upheld. Now, I invite you to research these issues for yourself to form your own opinion. I'm curious about your perspective on Justice Sotomayor's warning that the birthright citizenship ruling threatens the rule of law. And what do you think of Pete Hegseth's claim that the Iran strikes were a success? Now, if you like this video, hit that like button, share it with others, and subscribe for more values-based analysis. And if you haven't seen my previous video about how the Supreme Court's ruling could shift the balance of power, because you see how the courts and the executive branch tend to clash occasionally, stick around because it's coming up next.